Hi, and welcome to the second episode of Jumpsuit Utopia, the new emancipation podcast focusing on the utopian themes of Star Trek. Today we are doing Picard Season 1, Episode 2, Maps and Legends, and we have a slightly smaller panel. Today we have Kyle from General Intellect Unit.
Hello.
And we have Esri from Swampside Chats.
Hi, it's Esri, formerly known as Lexi, who apparently it was really some misogynist producer playing hardball with the previous actor. So that's why there's a continuant to the K symbiote. Anyway, what's up?
And then me, Sophie. I'm from Trans Revolution and also on the Emancipation Podcast reading series.
Well, the From Alpha to Omega reading series?
The From Alpha to Omega reading series. The From Emancipation to Podcast reading series.
True facts.
So we have in front of us an interesting episode. So I guess we'll wait till the end of the ep to get like final thoughts and kind of roll that in with overall like vibes of the episode, I suppose, and just kind of jump into themes to start off.
The vibe check section.
Yeah, the vibe check section will be at the end. We'll kind of roll that in with how you say predictions and what you want to see happening in the future.
Cool.
So, one of the first things that kind of jumps out is, and earlier in the episode, is this discussion of the, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation because I can't pronounce even Earth-human English things.
Is it
Go for it.
Is it Jat Vash?
Jat Vash, yes. The Jat Vash.
It's the same kind of, it's the same like beginning of the word that Jaban has. Like Laris and Shaban. Yeah. It's the same kind of, I don't know. It's Hebrew? No, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Sounds suspiciously froggy to me.
Jatvash.
Yes. We got a like for that comment.
There's Jatvash.
Yeah. We open up with the discussion of what the hell that is, and basically you have the Tal Shiar, which is like the Romulan secret police, and then the secret police within the secret police is the Jat Vash, which is they speculate is basically just there to hunt AI, and they do a little bit of interesting world building with the Romulans, which I don't think this has ever been established before, but Romulans don't like AI. They don't like synths. Their computers only do computations, like numerical computations. They don't have like interface AI like the Federation and most other species do.
They don't even have Siri.
They don't even have Siri.
They're basically on Battlestar Galactica. That's
really?
Their protocol. Well, no. I mean, like that's like in Battlestar Galactica, like at the beginning of this series, they have to shut down all their AIs because the Cylons will infect them. So they're like, for the course of the show, they're just like running their ship using like that level of computation.
Oh, I should watch that because we've been one of our early followers on Twitter got threatened by an actor on Battlestar Galactica. True story.
Yeah.
If she's watching, that offer still stands. I'll literally allow you to beat me up, and we'll do an episode about Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. Sophie has dibs. Like, I was trying to muscle in on that, but no, Sophie's got dibs.
I mean, we could share,
It seemed like from the interaction that, oh God, just go follow Jumpsuit Pod on Twitter. It's it's a response on one of our only posts. I wonder if it's still up. It's fucking hilarious. I love it.
It's really good. I was really shook that this actor is just like threatening to beat up people on this like Twitter account with 80 followers.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
so wild.
Our follower said something a little, it might be from Battlestar Galactica, but it read to me as a little like suspect. And she was like, fuck no.
Apparently, I'm not trying to turn this into Battlestar Galactica cast, but my friend who's really into that show said that actor is like basically that character IRL. That's why she's really good in that role. She's like,
jeez.
like she actually probably could beat up that guy, and also like stories about her getting into bar fights are not that far fetched. So
wow.
JFC. Wow.
So,
if you're out there, it still stands. We should really memorize her name, but it still stands Starbuck. Okay.
Anyway, back to Star Trek.
She didn't beat us up yet, so we're going to talk about Star Trek.
Yeah. No freebies. So yeah, we have the Zat Vash, and there's a kind of an interesting like editing trick here where they're like, it was, I guess the discussion they had introducing this force, this Romulan police force, happened before they go to Dodge's apartment to kind of like figure out what the hell happened before she met Picard. And so they cut that with them actually in the apartment examining, and they introduced this concept, and it kind of brought up the thing that I immediately thought of, and I don't know if it was Kyle or Esri who wrote this, but like, what is the Romulan government like at this point? We talked about last time how where it's unclear if they still have a government, if it's just kind of like a diaspora without a central body. But if they have not only Tal Shiar, but this secret, super secret Zat Vash, then it seems that they have to have some kind of centralized government. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's not at odds with a diaspora. There's still like a Jewish diaspora. Arguably, there's a Jewish state now, even if I don't recognize it.
Well, the point I'm trying to get at, though, is that, like, of course you can have a diaspora without a state, but I have a hard time believing that you have the super secret police force without a centralized state. That's the point I'm getting at.
Well, the kind of implication with the Zat Vash is that it's sort of like almost a kind of conspiracy. Like it's a very small group of people.
A cabal.
So like even members of the Tal Shiar don't really know about it in general. It's only some of them that know about it. So like it is conceivable that a group that small could continue operating even in the absence of a state. But at the same time, we do learn in this episode about the existence of the quote-unquote Romulan Free State. And it seems like there's connections going on there because of that scene like in the back half of the episode where the Zat Vash agent, what's his name? Narek, is it? Narek, he's like, oh, like I don't need any researcher's permission to get in on this observation, which kind of implies that, like, you know, he's got the secret police shadow control over all the operations there. So yeah, it seems like the Zat Vash maybe are connected to whoever's running the Romulan Free State.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. If it's such a small body of like elite soldiers, you don't necessarily need a centralized government. They could just be remnants of what was there before the Romulan state fell, and then acting covertly. I don't recall, going back to the idea of the Romulan Free State, and I've watched the episode twice, I don't know how I don't remember this, but like, when was that mentioned? Like, what was the context of the Romulan Free State?
It was talking about the artifact and who was running the artifact. It was like the property of the Romulan Free State.
Yeah, there's even a reference by Soji towards the exploitation of Borg technology for profit, or for the extraction of profits, or something along those lines. Which in the future of the Federation, like all kinds of things about profit have become metaphors, but I didn't think that this was one. It sounded literal.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, it seems like they didn't explicitly say this, but it seems like the only way that the Romulan Free State is like able to function is because they like got the lead claim on this Borg cube remains and are just like pawning shit, trying to fund their society and what's left, and like make sure refugees can have some money in their pockets. I'm just assuming. But what is also interesting about the Romulan Free State in relation to the reclamation site, aka the Borg cube, is what is their motivation for deborging all the survivors, right? Like, is it just a humanitarian thing? Because it's rarely...
No.
Yeah, of course. I was going to say, rarely Romulans just do shit for humanitarian reasons. Maybe they would have changed if the Federation had followed through and actually like helped them resettle.
Narek like side-eyes Soji for like being like, oh, you want to like resurrect these nameless people,
right?
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's about either, you know, military technological power or just about like funding the state, or possibly both. But we don't have a clear answer to that question yet. That's something that I was really wondering in this episode, and I was like, like these serial TV series, you never know like the full picture until the end,
right? There's no like 10-minute conversation over like some bleeps and bloops that are just like, oh, so this is the entire plot to this episode. Okay, I think I understand. Wait,
yeah,
I'm sorry, exposition character, could you explain this to me? Like, which, you know, give you a nice, you know, and fuller picture. Yeah, this is more, it's more losty, gives you wisps, you know? Yeah. And so, yeah, we can confirm that the, you know, fucking Gestapo stormtrooper, the 3,000 things, I guess, are the Zhat Vash. And I ended up like rewatching the first episode again because I'm insane after we recorded, and I noticed the mind probes that towards the end of Deep Space Nine, Bashir uses on somebody in Section 31. And they say, wait, are those Romulan mind probes? And so they're the same probes. And so I think I could have, from just looking at those mind probes, at least been like, all right, maybe they are just Romulan forces. But then they made up super secret police. But hey, super secret police.
Yeah, so the super secret police, like, I was rolling my eyes when I heard about this, but
same at first,
if they do tie this in to the plot of Discovery Season 2, I would be on board and be like, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, so kind of exploring more like the relationship between the Tal Shiar and Zhat Vash. Have you finished Season 2 of Discovery?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
Okay, so spoilers, but you know, oh heck, we have a new friendo.
Well, he was here last time.
Well, new this episode.
Hello.
Oh, wow. Hey.
Oh.
Hey.
Hey, it's
How's it
Chief
going?
O'Brien.
Hello, underlings.
Excuse me.
Hey.
Look at me. Look at my eyes. I'm the captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, likely.
I mean, she's the captain today.
She's the captain in the holodeck. Let's just say that.
How dare you?
Count those pips. Count those pips. All right.
Right? I'm not wearing my captain's uniform, but I'm in casual mode right now, so...
Wait a minute. Chief O'Brien is technically, he's not like a soldier, right? He's not Starfleet military, right? Like he's
Chief O'Brien is an enlisted man.
Oh, okay.
He's not an officer.
Seriously,
That's what it is. That's what it is.
I'm a grunt.
So,
God damn it.
yeah,
So-
you're just an underling. Know your place.
To correct, Chief O'Brien, technically just an enlisted man, not an officer.
That's right. How are you on long? How long? Oh, you're only not on long too long.
Oh yeah, it's like 14 minutes in, but we are live.
We are alive.
What have you talked about so far? Or
We covered the Romulan Free State and the Zhat Vash, the super secret police. Do you have anything to say about the Zhat Vash or what the hell the potential Romulan Free State is?
Well, yeah, like when the Free State was what? That's the cube. Is that the Free State?
Well, we don't
They
really
just
get a lot
own
of
the cube.
information.
Yeah, we don't know.
Well, it just looks like that they're trying to infiltrate and take over the. Basically, they've lost their homeland, and they just go, "All right, let's just take over this other empire." But it seems kind of unlikely that. Have you got to the scene yet where like the two of them are talking? The head of the Star Trek. What would you call them? The spy stuff.
Commodore O.
Yeah, have we got to that yet?
No,
No, we haven't talked about that.
We haven't
whole
talked about that
aspect
stuff yet.
Okay, I won't say anything about that then. But I did like the one thing I liked was the when they talked about exploitation of the. They said exploiting the Borg technology. Was it that what they said?
It was or at least it was extraction of profits. We should just look up the quote, right?
Yeah. So does that mean that the Romulans are still capitalist?
Yeah, they might be operating at like a sort of like merchant capital, like like just basically stealing stuff and selling it to people. Level of capitalist accumulation.
But
what we could say with any certainty is that we know, like pre-fall of the Romulan Empire, they were basically an autocracy, which like with like a capitalist mode of protection.
They also had a slave economy, right?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know if they explicitly had slaves in TNG, but
it's unlikely
but in Nemesis, it's established that they have slaves, right?
Yeah, that the Remans are basically like a slave colony.
Yeah.
It's kind of unlikely they would have slaves, though, isn't it? If they managed to get the warp drive, you think like it would be more efficient just to have proles.
I mean, you think so, but then again, the Romulans were invented in TOS. I think they had one episode per season in TOS. None of which I've seen, by the way, but that they were modeled on the Romans. And if they're anything like the Romans, they had fucking slaves.
You have seen one. You've seen the one with where they find the old Earth, the capsule, and then the Romulans come in, and they're both.
That's TNG, babe. We're talking about the original series.
Oh, the original series. Sorry.
Which I millennialized to TOS.
Sorry, no, I knew that. I just picked it up wrong. Yeah, I've been drinking.
Well, a lot of people are drinking because it's fucking Super Bowl Sunday in America, and we're talking about Star Trek.
USA.
God, I remember going to the cinema in the States, like in 1997. I went to watch Air Force One. Did you ever see that film?
Hell yeah, I saw that in theaters, Tom.
Get off my plane.
That's it. I saw that, like. And the crowd, like when you as a European go to the cinema, going to the cinema in the States is fucked up. People be like going, yeah, and the whole cinema was standing up, going, USA.
No,
like,
wow.
Those Irish boys turning around and going,
wow.
You saw the most American possible showing of Air Force One.
I saw it in Manhattan.
Laughing in the theater and stuff.
In
Manhattan.
Almost 30 years of going to the movies, I have never seen anyone chant USA unironically. Like,
that's so good. I could see it. In Manhattan, they have to deal with like turbo city folk, and if you work like a shitty job in Manhattan and you deal with like cosmopolitan city folk, those are some of the most like casually like patriotic people you can meet, like because they just hate they hate the globalists.
Let's pivot back into show, though.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So, kind of like circling back to what Kyle was talking about with regards to connecting the Zatvash to the end of Disco Season 2. Spoiler alerts for that.
I mean, this is we're really putting a lot of faith in them that they're going to connect these two series. This might be.
Yeah, I mean, look,
these are different writers
there's connections on the writing staff, right?
I mean, yeah,
there is connections in the writing staff, but the plot, the end of Season 2 of Disco is the rogue AI that's fucking shit up is just shat out of Section 31 and it's like flying towards the Gamma Quadrant. Which, if you've watched Voyager, you know that the Gamma Quadrant, far as heck. And so, now granted, this is like over 100 years, which is what they kind of estimated the amount of time it would take Voyager to get back, like under normal means. So it is possible that this is related to Control, but I, for one, am a little skeptical. I'm more hopeful of it being connected to Disco Season 3 than I am to Disco Season 2.
Well, super bong rip. What if it's connected to the temporal Cold War from Enterprise, and the Zhat Vash are time traveling, Romulan agents?
Oh. I was just
did there.
I was just thinking that Control, like the whole Control incident, might have spooked the Romulans enough to get them to establish an organization like this. That was a guess I had as to like what might be going down. But I don't know. I mean, I just think it would be cool if they connected those two things in some way.
I think that's quite likely. I have another theory though. Did you notice there was one scene in it when the yellow-skinned synth blew up? Whatever. What was the place?
Oh, Utopia Planitia shipyard.
Yeah.
We should definitely spend a chunk of time about that. I wrote
Well, it was
a little bit about it.
Yeah. So like, basically, the synth. That's the incident why all synths were banned, isn't it? Because he basically destroyed the shipyard.
Yes.
But did you notice they did one particular shot where they zoomed in on the back of his head, and it looked like he had shaved hair follicles in it. And I think that he wasn't a synth, that he was one of the what are we calling them?
Zhat Vash.
The Zhat Vash, or whatever. And basically, he looked to be a synth to destroy it, to get all the synths banned on Earth. I bet you that's the plot.
Wait a minute. Don't some synths have like flesh and blood, essentially?
Well, like,
yes, but not these ones.
They were basic looking, kind of robotic-y ones, and it seemed to me like they were zooming in so that you could see hair follicles as a thing. Like, I don't know. This could be a stupid ass theory.
I don't think that one's going to age well. But hey, you can laugh in my face.
I will point to one other thing in this episode that may support Tom's point, which is in the conversation between O and the other Zhat Vash operative. There's like it's the conversation between Narek and O, I think, where he mentions her like ridiculous rounded ears, as like, oh, like you've done this like plastic surgery stuff to like disguise yourself as a human. So I mean, if they can impersonate humans, then they could probably impersonate synths as well.
Just one quick clarification: you're referring to Narek and Lieutenant Rizzo. Commodore O is the Starfleet Vulcan. I believe.
Sorry.
It's okay.
That's right. That's the conversation. And the point I would say against Tom's idea is that when that synth attacks the staff at Utopia Planitia, like that synth obviously has super strength, which the Zhat Vash would not. So
the only way they can explain that is that if they had some kind of like enhancement drug or some kind of like exoskeleton that gave them super fast reflexes, but it seems kind of unlikely at this point.
Well, if they're related to Vulcans also have like some variety of like they're stronger than humans.
They're stronger than humans. They're faster than humans, but that was like data and dodge levels of fast.
Yeah, that was mega strength. Yeah.
I'm going to look and see if I can find the still and see what people make of it. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Wow, right. This is like I've always wanted to be into the New World Order stuff. You know what I mean?
It's a shame I'm cleaning my bong right now. Anyway.
So so just a quickly touch on the Utopia Planitia. We actually see how the attack started. And it basically seems like it was run rogue synths that either infected the other synths or was acting on commands that were given to all synths to lower the defense shields. And then it looks like they turned the Utopia Planitia defenses on the planet itself and just blasted the planet with satellites. and then that synth that kind of got the ball rolling shot himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important just to note that for plot. I don't know if I want to spend a lot of time on that because it isn't exploring utopian themes or whatever, but
it's exploring dystopian themes, and like there's clearly robophobic tension at the workplace. Like there's a rather ambivalent relationship between the workers and the robots. Like some of them are sympathetic and others are downright dehumanizing. They also didn't get the day off, which, if you're like an orthodox Marxist, maybe is part of why they're so frustrated.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, they mentioned like if you have a skeleton crew, you need a skeleton. So that's kind of the idea. But the other thing I wanted to say, this might be a hot take.
It's First Contact Day. They should have the day off.
I mean, if they have to have humans monitoring, they have to have humans monitoring. But another thing I wanted to point out is maybe that's a bit less of me. I'm sorry.
Jesus.
But the other thing I wanted to argue, this might be a bit of a hot take, but those synths, I don't know if they're sentient in the same level of Data or Dodge or Data's mom, or like they're just like, I am automaton. What did you do this day, you automaton? Nothing. Creepy smile. You know.
I think the implication of the robot's suicide is that it fears for the consequences of its actions.
Really? I totally took that a different way. My theory on that since suicide was it or he, they, we don't know the pronouns of them, but
yeah, I feel like synth is a slur also. Anyway, carry on.
No, it's not in like new order music, new wave music. It's like a cool thing. So it's synth.
Yeah, but
true.
Synthesizers are allowed to say it.
Does anybody? I got the little clip here. Does anybody want me to play? It's like 3 seconds long. Can I share the screen?
Let me finish this thought, and then you can we can pivot to clip. But I think that the suicide that since suicide was not a choice it made, but rather a command it was given. Now I'm open to being proven wrong, because what we might find out is that the synths had a reason they were rebelling. And the reason why they turned their attack on the Federation. But the way that the show portrayed that synth in particular acting in a very unhumanoid kind of way. It was very automaton. It was nothing like Data or Dodge or any of the other androids we met, who I do believe are people in the legal and philosophical sense.
Yeah. And there's also a motif in a lot of Asimov's novels. Whenever a robot does something evil, it's because there's an evil person behind it.
And you see when that synthetic is activated, there's like a flash on their eye. Yeah. That suggests they're being hacked.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
So I'm not blaming the synths for the attack. I'm saying that they don't have personhood, so they just carry out programs. They're programmed. They were hacked and programmed to carry out this attack. So
in the scene in the Daystrom Institute in the previous episode, they kind of mentioned how like they weren't able to replicate Data's positronic brain, but they did come up with like some kind of alternative, and maybe that's just it's not as sophisticated as Data was.
I think before this episode, before the series was released, and the expanded lore, which may or may not be canon, but there's been discussion before of this of a Maddox type android, and the general implication is the Maddox type android is not as sophisticated as the Sung like positronic neural net type of android. The only experience I have with this is somebody doing a role-playing game, and the Maddox type android was like almost as sophisticated as a Sungian android.
Yeah,
I don't think that's what we're seeing here, though.
Up until now, like there hasn't been any canon that relates to this, and well, that's a reasonable inference, and comes up in a lot of fan fiction. It's just never been addressed,
right,
until now.
So let's pivot to clip. You want to take it away, Tommy boy?
Tommy boy. Choking on my coffee over here.
Tom, it's your big moment. Okay, here we go.
We're gonna get sued.
Bye. What happened to the clip? Tom? Okay, well, we'll come back to that, I guess. Oh, wait, and...
I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So,
They don't all have hair follicles?
So we don't know. The question is if these synths were programmed with hair follicles and to like simulate hair growth like Data was, why do they have shaved heads with their like ID number tattooed on it? Like,
They were all
if you're going to
bald
go through
looking.
the trouble of programming them to have simulated hair, why not give them hair so they look more humanoid instead of making them look like automatons?
We know it's possible for them to look human inside and out, to be composed of flesh and blood. Like, that's a possibility in the universe. I wouldn't read too much into that.
It is a possibility, but in that first episode, what was it? What's the name of the researcher at Daystrom Institute?
Her name?
Girardi.
Yeah.
Girardi. So Girardi said that technology existed, but it certainly wasn't like widespread. Like, that wasn't the standard rollout. And also that it was unworkable, right? She said that it was unworkable. It was like, oh yes, this technology was under like development, but we couldn't make it work, kind of thing, right?
The implication in that episode also was that only Dr. Sung could make these kinds of very, very humanoid-looking androids, and he did it in TNG, even, as I mentioned last episode. So, we don't. As far as we know in canon, the closest they could get to that was these kind of more automaton-looking synths, and so.
What Dr. Girardi said was unworkable was the Grand Slam. Was, making something of flesh and blood and having it have Data's, like, capacity for reason. I forget exactly what all the points were, but it sounded like making a flesh and blood android was relatively trivial. And if they had, like, one neuron from Data, they could, easily make the host body. That's not the problem. It was explicitly said. I think this entire train of thought is misguided.
So anyway, let's pivot to the next topic, the one I'm kind of most interested in fleshing out, which is the Federation's corruption. So we've been kind of dancing around this character, Commodore O, right? And Commodores aren't really mentioned often, like I've seen an episode in TOS, and they're like here and there, maybe some movies, but a Commodore is in between Admiral and Captain, basically. And so
I've never heard of this at all.
I actually had to look it up. It's something in the Navy that obviously was taken from the Navy, like most of the ranks are. But then there's a TOS episode, it's the Menagerie, actually, part 1. The guy in charge of that space station is a Commodore.
Oh.
Yes.
Nice work.
Thanks. So Commodore O, I wasn't clear what her position was, but this admiral is like giving her a report on like what's going on with Picard. I guess I should back up. So there's a scene where Picard is trying to get back with into the good graces of Starfleet, and he goes to Starfleet HQ in San Francisco. The scene with the transporters, we've never seen side-to-side transporters on Earth before, was fucking awesome, by the way. Just had to throw that in there.
Well, we saw that that last episode too, right?
Did we? I don't remember that.
I think so. I remember.
Oh, regardless. He goes to Starfleet HQ, he meets with this admiral, and he's like, hey, like, is it cool if I come back and get a ship and investigate this thing? And I gotta be honest with you, her response was outrageous and angry and personally motivated, obviously. But when Picard was making this request, I was like, dude, you have a lot of audacity. Like, he's just like, if it's too conspicuous for me to be an admiral, I'm okay with being demoted to captain. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, give me a ship. It's all good. Like, the day before, he just, like, dunked on Starfleet, and now he wants back in. Like, now her response was awful, and there was a kind of back and forth where she's, like, mad at him for talking shit in Starfleet, and she's defending the decision to leave the Romulans to die, and he says, the Federation doesn't have the right to determine which species lives or dies. And she says, yes, we do. We absolutely do.
No, she totally says that. So,
it's so fucked up. It's so fucked up.
Very creepy. Like, hey, like, there are going to be people that are going to pull out of the Federation if we continue to help the Romulans. So you do some utilitarian calculus, and we have the authority to decide who lives or dies. We can dwell on this. I do want to, like, back up a little bit. We had a small conversation about nostalgia, with Shane in the last episode, and I disagreed. Well, like, I disagreed with them that this was a nostalgia trip. It felt like I felt like the show is using nostalgia in a way I like, because nostalgia as a whole, if you wanted to generalize about it, is sort of conservative or maybe even reactionary in art. Like, if you want to think in those terms, like, the way that it's used has a protective sheen over the past. And
Make America great again.
What this show is doing, it knows it has a nostalgic, like, it does lean into that stuff. And I'm not saying that that's immune to critique, but I think it does it in a wonderful way. Like, the 20th Century song, that one of the first ones that was in the first episode, was the song that Data sings at the Riker Troy wedding in Nemesis. And when the person says, be the captain you remember, be the captain they remember, it's Jaban, who's like a refugee, believes in Picard. And the scene where Picard in this episode visits Starfleet HQ, walks in and sees not just the original series Enterprise, but then his Enterprise D, like, being projected up top as this, like, beautiful exemplar of what Starfleet is. Like, even the music, like, recapitulates the themes from the original series and the Next Generation at the same time. And, Picard gives his request to Admiral Clancy, and she just cuts him down. It is brutal. She just starts out the sheer fucking audacity. And from there, just tears into this guy that you as a viewer, you represents everything noble about, the accumulated, like, two main series, as they've built up in that whole, I'm going to Starfleet montage. Like, I'm convinced that they know what they're doing when deploying the nostalgia, like, and that they're doing something more subversive than I expected. While because they know they have your number when it comes to nostalgia. They know that they can use it. And if they're going to use it intelligently, I really have no problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like something they have to work with, because it is so much of the selling point for this series, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're like, that's a really interesting sequence of scenes, right? Because, as you said, there's the establishment there's the establishing shot, there's the, Picard showing up and be like, back again. And then the music kicks in, you see the Enterprise D, we see, the original Enterprise, and then gets to the desk, and the desk attendant doesn't recognize him, like, somehow. And then
fresh face,
just shot down in that conversation. Really good at establishing that like the continuity that exists in Starfleet right now is more aesthetic than it is material.
Yeah, or moral.
But like,
Right.
do people not kind of think though, like Picard is just like some old geezer going back saying, "Give us a ship"? On some level, I'd be thinking like, "Fuck off! Like, what? You can't be just coming in asking me for a ship, you fucking old codger." You know?
No, I
On
totally
some
agree.
level. Like, I think like,
yeah.
and Picard going back, and the young lad didn't recognize him, and he looks at the guy witheringly, and you see Picard's ego, and he has the ego where he thinks, I can just go in and like they just give me a bloody starship, you know, because I'm Jean-Luc.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I thought Jean-Luc didn't come out of that whole interaction very well either. You know, I thought he came across quite egotistical and quite like, oh man, did you not know I had like 2 #1 albums in the 1976?
No, that's quite right. But all the same, like, I don't know, it feels earned for the viewer. And when the Admiral cuts him down, she says some monstrous things, but ultimately, it's a believable side. You know, it seems like.
I think it sounds very believable. I can imagine that being the politics.
Yeah,
100%.
Totally agree. I think that's kind of what you said more succinctly what I was trying to say at the beginning. Like, he was a bit arrogant with her, not in a way that was directly rude, but in a way that was incredibly presumptuous. And one of the ways she shot him down, you know, she said some monstrous thing, but she also basically called him a doddering old fool, more or less. Like, so there's that aspect too. You know, it's what did she say? Like, the ramblings of a once great man or something like that. Like, that was pretty rough.
Yeah. She made it real personal.
Yeah, it seems clear from that conversation that they were like at each other's throats when it came to helping the Romulans back in the day, and they have bad blood between them.
And she also like twists the knife in terms of him resigning over the issue, right, of the Romulan refugees, like just saying like, "Oh, do what you do best, go home," right?
Right, like you lost, old man, go home. You know.
Yeah, we can genocide anyone we want by not looking at it. So fuck you.
Yeah, more or less. So like you could see her side in that he came off really arrogant, but she's still wrong ultimately. Like, she's still apologizing for genocide, still giving the Federation too much power. And this kind of circles back to some of our conversations regarding Homefront and Paradise Lost, in that like you have this highly rigid kind of structural society that's like basically based off of liberal democracies, more or less, as far as political structure is concerned. And they do have, I mean, literally, and from a literal and technical standpoint, the Federation, she's correct. The Federation absolutely can determine the death of a species, life and death of a species.
Yeah, but
and that's a problem.
Picard's talking about. Yeah, Picard's not a Foucauldian. You know, it's like, do they have the right to do that?
I'm not talking about rights. I'm talking about from a capability and a power standpoint. I'm not saying Picard's signing off on that, but I'm saying that you see that structure is there in Homefront and Paradise Lost. Like, you know, you see in Conspiracy, you know, towards the end of season 1 of TNG, you get some little mind control bugs in some top-ranking people in Starfleet. The whole thing almost falls apart. Like, there's this potential that's there, that's kept in bay by this utopian spirit, but it's just always underneath the surface, and that's kind of always been a tension within Star Trek.
Yeah, in Section 31 in both Discovery and in Deep Space Nine, attempt genocide.
Right. Just so we can clarify, is Starfleet answerable to the Earth government, or what level is it?
It's to the Federation. It's to the Federation.
But the Federation is the Earth is a part of that.
Yes.
So okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems kind of like
it's a federal government of some kind. that involves all the planets that are a part of the Federation. So Earth doesn't have, in like a legal sense, any special control over Starfleet.
Right, but
But
they
I
got
suppose-
the HQ. The HQ's in
Yeah.
Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah, Starfleet or the Federation. The charges of the Federation is a bit human ethnocentric. Is like kind of true, actually. That tends to be the case with sci-fi, even utopian sci-fi. It's very like human-centric, even though you're supposed to be entering this vast universe with many different intelligent species. It always focuses on humans. Even Star Wars, which is supposed to be long ago in a galaxy far away, humans. You know.
Well, but did they even have some kind of space seed myth where Greco-Romans colonized the whole star systems? I don't think so. That makes no sense. Star Wars.
Okay, Esri.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No,
I know you are.
The Star Trek myth is really dumb too.
It's really silly, yeah. So anyway, I brought up this whole conversation with Admiral Clancy to kind of get to a later scene where Admiral Clancy, the admiral that shoots down Picard, tells Commodore O. Now, Commodore O's position was never clear to me, and maybe I missed it, but I took away that she is the head of Earth security, kind of like what Cisco was in Paradise Lost and Homefront. And it makes sense that this would be a position held by somebody under Admiral, because that's kind of the precedent they set up. It also makes a little bit more sense for it to be a Commodore, not a captain. And it seems like Admiral Clancy was reporting this whole thing because Picard talked about a secret Romulan plot to take over the Federation. She's like, this is probably ridiculous, and he's just a doddering old man. But can you at least look into it just so we could be sure? And then that's when she calls him Lieutenant Rizzo. And it's not established who Lieutenant Rizzo actually is, but Commodore O is kind of chewing out Lieutenant Rizzo for fucking this up and almost getting caught, right? So she knows that there was some shenanigans going on, as far as we know, Romulan shenanigans on Earth, and is okay with it and is more mad that they almost got caught.
Well, it sounds like the squad that took out Dodge is her squad.
Right.
And there's a tension between what's her name? God damn it. There's a tension between Lieutenant Rizzo, who is a deep cover Romulan. And her fuckboy brother Narek, who's like, listen, big sis. This is how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna fuck that android, okay? And, get into her mind. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, okay, we'll try it your way. But if it's not working by the time I get there, we're going to have another fucking accident. Okay? Like, yeah, she's a psycho. She seems like a psycho.
Oh, yeah. But from a purely, like, a tactical standpoint, too, like a spy tactics, like, Narek is kind of right. Like, she killed Dodge before they could find out where the other synths are, before they could find out, like, where Maddox is. They couldn't find shit, because they just murked her. Like, I think from the bad guy perspective, like...
OPSEC or whatever.
Yeah. From a bad guy perspective, like, Commodore O is kind of correct in chewing her out. But what's super fascinating for the purpose of this show is, to what extent is Commodore O involved in this Romulan plot? She didn't say Lieutenant Rizzo, a.k.a. Romulan agent, in that first scene. But when you fast forward in the conversation between Lieutenant Rizzo and Narek, it's revealed that Lieutenant Rizzo was cosmetically altered to look human, and she's actually a Romulan infiltrator.
Ridiculous round ears.
Exactly. So, what's Commodore O's like? What is she trying to get out of this? Is she also Romulan, made to look Vulcan?
Seriously,
is she a traitor?
Is that how shitty? Like, is that how shitty Starfleet screening is? Is all they had to do was round her ears? She passed every test. They have like a ruler specifically to check for Romulanicity, and it's like, no, Seriously, how believable? Like, what type of goddamn stuff are they doing? The head,
Chief
the head of the fucking, like the head of the CIA being a goddamn mole. Come on.
I mean, Chief O'Brien, you know, they threw Diana Troy in some shoulder pads and, you know, put her on a Romulan vessel too. Like it takes two to tango.
That wasn't Diana Troy. They just got Kate Bush in. Kate Bush. They got Kate Bush from the 1980s. Time machined her into the Romulan Empire.
I mean, there's all kinds of reasons how, like, she could fake blood tests, she could fake genetic screenings, like,
yeah. But
we don't know what kind of technology these people have. It's more than just rounding the ears and she's in, you know?
Yeah, but I don't think that Commodore O is a Romulan. I know I'm breaking my own rule of whenever you see a Vulcan, it's a Romulan so far. I think she might be the first Vulcan because she doesn't really joke around. She's like, I'm chill as hell until I get angry. And then I'm very methodological, or I'm very methodical and angry at the same time. She's got like kind of like low down like elf ears instead of like big ups ears. I was like, oh, these ears are different. Okay. And also in the conversation between, you know, the Lieutenant Rizzo, but not, and little fuckboy bro, they're like, they seem to think that, I don't know, they don't talk about her like she's part of our sweet team. She's like an ally, some ally in the Federation, and maybe because she's Vulcan, you know, she's close enough to the Romulans to be able to sympathize in this way.
So she's a logical extremist, maybe. It's like alt-right collaboration.
No, for real. Like late logic extremist is actually a pretty good read.
She could be a logic extremist who believes that she believes in Romulan and Vulcan reunification is a good thing, but from like a right-wing perspective, opposite of Spock. Like the Vulcans should be more like Romulans.
Yeah, horseshoe theory. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a horseshoe theory Vulcan.
Yeah. She's a syncretist Vulcan. You know, because they did have
her position.
Yeah, they did have a logic extremist on as an admiral in like Disco. So yeah, maybe she's like some alt-right Vulcan that's like, yeah, we need like a, you know, your Russian pact against the Atlanticists or something. I don't know.
I think we have a title for the episode somewhere in that rant.
What, the Vulcan Duganist?
Uh-oh, we got another screen grab.
Let's do it.
There we go. Kate Bush as Romulan.
Oh, wow.
Tell me they don't look similar.
That's cool.
There you go.
I love it.
So, I basically agree with your take, though, Esri. I think you're right. I don't think she's a Romulan. Although maybe instead of a logic extremist, maybe she is. She sympathizes with the Romulans because, and I think this might be a little bit more likely if I may toot my own horn, but I think she sympathizes with the Romulans because she thinks Starfleet did them dirty. And so she may not be a logic extremist in that same sense that we saw in Disco, but she might be kind of like some kind of, you know, person trying to give Romulans a homeworld on Vulcan. And wants Vulcans to be more Romulan, basically.
So it's kind of like how Richard Spencer doesn't want war in Iran.
I mean, I think the difference here is that logic extremists are Vulcan xenophobes, whereas she is a Romulan, but she's Romuphilic, if you will.
Okay, she's
Romophile.
So she's like, I don't know, she's like a neoconservative with a heart. I don't know.
Or maybe
got nothing.
She just sympathizes with the Zhat Vash agenda and thinks that the Federation ban on synthetic development didn't go far enough.
Okay. Some variety of. Are we still in the alt-right Vulcan camp here? It's like,
yeah, that's a very alt-right position. Yes. Yeah. I think the one that Sophie was suggesting was a little bit softer than that. Yeah. But
Like more like a Tucker Carlson kind of Vulcan.
Wow, so many candidates for episode title. That might be the winner.
Where were we?
Anyway, let me look at the notes. So I think we covered most of the stuff I wanted to talk about, and that kind of we touched on basically everything in our show notes. So unless anyone wants one more word, I think we should pivot to, do you like the episode? Or what were your final thoughts?
I do have just one other thing to bring up, actually, which is, what is Soji's motivation in doing this reclamation work? Because it's obviously it's not identical to the Romulan Free State. Right. She has some kind of other agenda, which seems to be humanitarian,
right?
Probably. Like, this is about their, like, she has a line about, like, you know, you're free now, or something like that she says to the drone that she's just deborgified.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, she watched someone like rip out its implants. And it was like she's like a social worker there to like make the state softer.
She's a psychologist, it seems like.
That was mentioned in the first episode, right?
Yeah, she's a doctor.
What is the Romulan motivation in having her there? Because there's her, and then there's the new girl who's a Trill. These are both Federation people.
Yeah, they clearly have like some kind of work visa arrangement that they've worked out with like foreigners to the Free State, where they can come and work on this scientific project.
Right, that's the context that the Free State comes up. Is the Trill is like, yeah, I mean, the Romulan Free State fucking suspended my visa for like a half month while I was on the way here, and then they just reinstated it for no reason.
So, I guess maybe this is a humanitarian thing. Like, so, how about this? Here's my fan theory. Despite all the corruption that's clearly happening in the Federation in this series, Federation is still ultimately post-scarcity moneyless, right? So, the Romulan Free State is still operating on some kind of profit motive, but they're using this to kind of rebuild their society, it seems like. So, what if, as like a humanitarian effort, you can go to the Federation and be like, hey, I want to help out at the reclamation site. And they're like, okay, here's your stipend so that you could function in that market economy, but they don't have to really pay you because we'll just give you whatever you need from replicators. That's kind of my headcanon, because like Soji seems clearly motivated by some kind of humanitarian desire. The Romulans, it makes me wonder if the Romulan Free State has just kind of a good like PR now, because like it seems like they're clearly not. They clearly don't have the military might to be a direct challenge. There's no neutral zone. There's no like direct challenge to the Federation and Federation allies by the Romulans anymore. Like,
I assume this Free State is like a rump of the Romulan Star Empire. Right, like this is some section of the empire that they're hanging out in, and
basically it's ISIS. You know, well, it's Saddam's ex-leaders turning to ISIS. That's what we have.
My analogy that I was going for was more like de Gaulle's Free France in the Second World War.
Not spicy enough. Not spicy enough.
Yeah.
What about the free territory?
I don't know if they were trying to establish the Romulan Caliphate, but we'll see.
Well, they're committing suicide, aren't they? They're suicide bombers.
What about the free territory in the Ukraine during the Russian Civil War?
That's too obscure. Keep it. Come on, Lexi.
I don't know.
Not everybody who listens to our podcast is such a hyper nerd as we are.
What about Michael Chabon, who is helping to write the thing? He has one of his most famous novels is about the establishment of an alternate version of Israel in like Alaska or something. Like, so he's
Oh yeah, right.
got a historical fiction kind of sense to him. I don't know. I'm really giving him a lot of credit.
I don't know about all that. But
the Yiddish Policemen's Union. It's supposed to be good.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I like my theory better. I don't know what else to say.
No, that's a good theory.
So I'm going to force us to pivot.
I must say something before we go. Is like I was listening to like the podcast again last week after it was released, and I was saying to myself, I remember when we were talking, I was going, Christ Almighty, Sophia and our goddamn theories, and Kyle coming up with all these stupid ass theories, and most of them were correct. I just thought I should say that. That's why I thought I should come in with this really rubbish theory about the shaved head. I said, I'll show them. Let's see how rubbish it is.
Yeah, maybe we'll be eating our words.
Yeah.
Well, since you wanted to chime in last, Commodore Alpha, why don't you tell us what you thought of the episode? Just final thoughts. Did you like it? Dislike it?
I thought it was pretty good. I don't know if anybody else, but they seem very short to me. Like, what Discovery an hour, or are they only 40 minutes too?
It's inconsistent. It could be anywhere from like 38 minutes to an hour. It's usually about 42, 45 minutes.
I find it quite short. And
well, yeah, this one just sort of ends. And I mean, when I watched it the second time, it felt a little more of a complete episode. But like my first impressions was really like, this really makes me feel the that you know, it's serialized, and that like it feels like we are sort of moving things around in this episode. Some slang I'm fond of from other podcasts is furniture moving, you know, and you have to get things ready for that, you know, actual thing in the next, that's coming in the next episode. And sort of reminded me that Picard is the first series I can think of that didn't like have 2 episodes available on the first day. I say it in such general terms because all the like 90s Trek, you know, up to and including Enterprise had 2-part openers. And Discovery had 2 episodes available on the first day. And Picard only had 1 45-minute chunk on the first day. And while I didn't feel it on the first day, you know, I'm definitely feeling it on this second day. And I wonder if like the first 3 episodes together are the equivalent of like what you would have gotten day 1 of a new Star Trek.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Who's talking now?
Oh, Esri.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I liked it. Like I said, I feel like, I'm frustrated by the serialized format in this way. And I think, you know, maybe if you edit these things differently, you can have more of one of the continuing plots in an episode. But that's just not really what they're doing. So I think, you know, for that kind of like serialized tease kind of format that this one had, like I still really liked it. I just want to voice how much I love Alaris and Shaban as characters. They're just a joy to be with, and they really feel like they know your good friend Picard for like a long time and have taken care of him for a long time. They don't take his shit, but they clearly love him. And Roddy, who is the same actor that plays Kim Pine and Scott Pilgrim, is just wonderful. And I can't wait to have more quirky doctorness from her. She's the one that's reading Asimov, to which Picard reads. Picard says, the classics. You know, I never really cared for science fiction.
That was really good.
That was I liked, they introduced a bit of humor. He had some humor when he going to meet the new one, and he brought the bottle of wine or something. But I have a feeling have a feeling that the next episode is essentially going to be the first half of the film Armageddon, where Bruce Willis has to go around and find like oil drilling guys who want to go and do some work on
Get the Roughnecks together.
Get the Roughnecks together.
Gotta get a new team together.
I honestly, I don't like that kind of stuff. I wish they just get on with the goddamn plot. I feel at the moment like there's quite a lot of setup. I hope it doesn't take 3 more episodes of setup before we start going doing something. And one thing I don't know, like, what the hell is Picard like going to do when he gets the ship? He's got no idea. He's got no clues or ties. Or
They
anything.
tease that.
I think he's clearly got no clue, and it's like kind of. I think the show is doing a good job of providing us a counter argument that Picard knows what he's doing, and that maybe Admiral Clancy has some points about this guy's kind of like losing it, and I think and there's also the scene between Dr. Benayoun from the Stargazer and him, which makes a reference to there's this something in his parietal lobe that is actually mentioned in All Good Things, the TNG finale. So it's it's something that was previously established in the canon, and basically says, listen, I don't know what it is, but you have a terminal condition. It's a fairly sad scene. And,
There's a ticking clock on the whole series now, basically.
Yeah.
So we're going to cut bottom 2 off and pivot to Kyle. Kyle, any thoughts on what's been talked about? What do you think about the episode? Like it, dislike it? Nope.
Am I a bottom now? Am I a bottom? Is that what you're saying?
I did have one more thing to say about getting the team together.
Go ahead.
Just as a capstone to the usage of nostalgia, I think it's Jabon says, you got to get the team back together. Riker, Worf, LaForge. Doesn't mention all the, the Crusher or Troy or nothing, but hey. But, the point being that, and Picard's like, no, I can't do that. They would drop everything, and I just can't have them doing that for me. That's the obvious thing to do. That's the obvious nostalgic angle. And Picard is like, no. I can't do that.
You can't have a ship of olds trying to save the galaxy.
No. Yeah, I can't pull them away from their lives. And I know they'd totally do it. It would be totally dope. And if a more like warm pair of slippers production team made this to be the nostalgia trip, that it could have been, that's what they would have done. And instead this is what they're doing. So I'm looking forward to them getting a team together, even though it's like the first half of Armageddon, because it means we're going to go on a fucking adventure. I'm excited.
Kyle, go.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we will see definitely some of the members who were mentioned there of the Enterprise crew get pulled in, and it's going to be Picard as the reluctant leader, right? Like, I care too much about you to pull you into this, because probably these characters still have careers with Starfleet, and operating with Picard would possibly torpedo their careers, right? So it's very understandable what he's saying there. But I do think that we're going to see Captain, my Captain, I couldn't possibly let you do this on your own, Jean-Luc. I got to get in there. Probably the Frakes directed episodes that are coming up, we're going to see Riker come in, right? For sure. But I think it's going to be a mix of old and new, and the appearance of those old cast members may be more spotty than we might have expected, where it's they're actually just core cast constantly on the show. Might be more like they come to help out here and there. Other points. So Laris and Jabon, we said that Odo was the one good cop. Are Laris and Jabon the two good spooks? Because it's established that they're Tal Shiar former Tal Shiar in this episode, right?
They're XG people.
Yeah, exactly. They put in a human face on the secret police here. But that was the only reason why I thought maybe Picard's not totally half-cocked on going out on this mission, right? Is he does have these secret police agents running forensics in this weird procedural section of this episode, right? So he's got some people backing him up. It's not just completely old man Picard I haven't been living. I've been waiting to die. I'm getting out there. You know.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I do hope to see more of them in this. So Jabon is definitely going with Picard, though, right? That's established. Yeah. So that's interesting. Overall thoughts on the episode. I think I definitely agree with what you were saying, Ezri, about the serialized format. However, I did appreciate that this episode was less rushed than the first. I think, when Shane in the previous episode, or in the previous podcast we did, mentioned that the episode was very rushed, I think that became even more apparent to me in watching this one, where they had a little bit more room to let things breathe. I think that helped quite a bit. And I think that actually doing the scene at Utopia Planitia was quite cool. That was good. I think overall, it was a good episode. It just, it did end abruptly, and I think it was stronger than the first. I think they're getting their feet under them, and I have a bit more confidence with where the series is going.
So, for me, I also liked the episode. I don't know if I feel as strongly that I liked it more than episode 1, but I liked it at least as much. And I think so. One of my predictions is Narek is going to end up flipping and joining the good guys.
Oh yeah,
I think that
it's going to follow his heart, and by heart I mean his Enterprise D.
Yes, he's gonna follow the D and support Soji. He's gonna actually kind of fall for her. Whether or not she goes with that, and I hope she doesn't, will remain to be seen. But I think this is kind of set up in that, like, in the first episode, and in this episode especially. But even in the first episode, where it's not like 100% confirmed he's a bad guy, he's like, "Heh, I'm gonna get you, Soji." It's like, it's kind of obvious. So I think they're trying to do a bait and switch, or they're just not good at writing that character. I don't know, but I hope it's a bait and switch. And I think so far I've been really happy with it. I think my idea, at least with these first 2 episodes, has kind of been proven, and that this is the more kind of slow, reflective, even if there are some fast-paced scenes, this is more of like the kind of like, Picard doddering around trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. It's like more of a mystery than just pure action.
Yeah. It's a Dixon Hill novel.
It's a Dixon Hill novel, basically. Yeah. He's trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. He wants to like do right by Data and his daughters.
Do Right by Data. That's a great, like, Do Right by Data should be the name, like a bebop album that Picard does with Data's ghost.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Admiral Picard, celebrated Starfleet hero, accomplished history author, and Billboard Top 100 artist. It's like when you see like a obituary of Leonard Nimoy, it's like, what? He did an album about being Spock? What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry for that.
Well, it's all good. I think I'm really excited. I'm curious to see how this new character Rafi pans out. A lot of these characters, both Jabon, Laris, and Rafi, are all introduced in comics, actually, which I want to read those at some point. But that kind of fills in the gaps between the attack on Utopia Planitia and where we're at with Picard. But maybe
I actually was like, is there a comic explaining this stuff? Like, especially with Rafi, because it was like, oh, of course, now Rafi's here. I was like, what did I miss? But yeah, this totally seems like the kind of series where they would have an accompanying comic series to help like flesh it out.
Yeah,
which
the Countdown comics, which I haven't read either.
I just like the idea of the whole season being like Picard slowly deteriorating and, you know, his mind playing tricks on him and some kind of an Alzheimer's thing. And it all just goes off for 3 seasons of pure and unadulterated downward spiral madness.
Well, I mean, I think that might be part of what they're going to do, especially because they're showing you this counter narrative to Picard, like in this specific, really through this character, really through Admiral Clancy, like, and, you know, representing a lot of what the Federation and, you know, what it seems like a lot of society, I guess, thinks about Picard. So, like, I know you're floating that as like a kind of a rib, but I think that that's going to be part of this. It was, you know, there's an element of that in All Good Things as well. So, yeah, like, you know, the terror of like dementia, especially for, you know, like an intellectual and, like, you know, someone whose spirit is so, like, I don't know, bound up with his intellect and his you know, articulation. I think that is a theme that's going to be going forward.
Do you think this whole thing is going to be him kind of tripping, or do you think
No,
he's just kind of
no,
like,
I don't think Tom's scenario. I don't think Tom's scenario.
Okay.
is
That
what's
scenario
happening.
is they've zoomed in on the back of his head as well, and he has more hair. So I think that he is basically Tal Shahar. You know, there's lots of, seriously, it's all about the hair.
He's a fucking changeling.
Maybe Picard was the actual android who blew up the thing. That's why they zoned in on the back of the head, because look, he's obviously bald. It's Picard. He's losing it. That's why he's not as coherent anymore, because he shot himself in his brain, lost his frontal lobe.
He's still Locutus. Or when he became an admiral, he got the head slugs from Conspiracy. Or he's actually Control.
I think we're going to cut it there. Let's pivot to comments.
Who's been smoking weed before we went on? These conspiracies are getting better and better.
Oh, man.
Okay, so we got a few comments from YouTube's Hermetical. Thanks for joining us. Maybe this is pivoting to Tom's comments and theories. Maybe the shaved head signifies some kind of demotion, not demotion as such being used for tasks below their ability and made to look like lesser androids. And then he just said goodbye. They said goodbye after that.
Okay.
So that's it. I didn't see anything on Twitch, but I could have just missed it. And
that's cool.
If you're on Facebook, I don't have a way to check that really easily.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching if you're there.
On Facebook, fuck you.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. I have 2 Facebook accounts. I don't go on them anymore, but I have them. So
bye.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, we're going. Okay, bye. Miss you already.